Hello, welcome. My name is Dr. Yitzhak Shapira, and I am the head of the Ahavat Ami organization. We would especially like to welcome viewers today from all over the world, from South Korea, Indonesia, France, Europe, and South Africa. We have received many emails and questions, and you wanted to hear from experts who can talk and explain to you exactly where we stand right now. And that's why today we have invited Mr. Adi Carmi from Israel to join the broadcast so he can come and explain to us exactly where we are and where we are headed. And hello from the United States, Adi Carmi. First of all, how are you doing? How is your family? How are you all been? It has not been an easy time for all of you.
We are a family like a lion's. We know exactly what kind of threat was clearly facing the people of Israel, and we fully understand that this is undoubtedly the urgent call of the hour at this critical moment. For example, just this morning we went into the shelters as a precautionary measure, and afterwards we heard about the attacks in Iran. Everyone here is truly united, firmly in support of the Israeli government and its important and consequential decision to launch a preemptive strike against Iran. As someone who comes to destroy us, who is growing stronger, determined, preparing, and wants to wipe out the state of Israel, we have no choice but to go to war and repel him before he succeeds in carrying out his plan.
Adi, you use the word war. Let's make a distinction. This is no longer just an operation here. We're already talking about a serious war at this moment. This morning, I heard the IDF spokesperson say that the threat has not yet been removed. So maybe let's start with that. Where do we currently stand with the threat? We saw there was another strike a few hours ago at the core there. Where are we right now? Has the threat been removed? Give us a rating from 1 to 10 so we know exactly where we stand at this stage of the military operation.
I'll just say that the state of Israel is engaged in a multi-front campaign. We are at war in Gaza and we are fighting in Judea and Samaria. Over the past week, there have been 15 major operations in Judea and Samaria, in Jenin, in Tulkarem. There have been hundreds of strikes inside the Gaza Strip in the city of Rafah. Yesterday, we recovered the bodies of 3 hostages and brought them back into Israel. And in Lebanon, we are keeping a close watch, and there are also operational activities in Syria, all while we are waging war against Iran. So where do we stand? The state of Israel has managed to inflict serious damage, and together with the United States attack, even greater damage to Iran's nuclear reactors. Everyone talks about Fordo, but we also have operations in Isfahan, in Bushehr, and there are several factories for manufacturing weapons and for producing the entire nuclear infrastructure. The state of Israel is systematically and deliberately targeting them, following a carefully constructed and detailed plan with objectives that are both clear and explicitly stated. And today it can be said that the 2 main goals are to strike at Iran's nuclear program at a very advanced stage, mainly following the United States attack with bunker-busting bombs. And it can be said that Israel has managed to destroy over 60% of the launchers for Iran's surface-to-surface missiles, which Iran actually uses to target city centers in Israel. It should be said, in fact, it is important to note without any doubt and with absolute certainty, Iran is a terrorist state. It launches missiles at population centers in Israel. It deliberately fires missiles at hospitals knowingly. It's not that they're aiming at a military base and accidentally hit the center of a city. They are murderers. And that's why I use the terminology that today we have 24 murdered civilians. Innocent people in city centers in Israel, in Bat Yam, in Petah Tikva, and in Ramat Gan, in the very heart of these cities, people, civilians, these innocent individuals, these civilians, unlike the state of Israel, which went to war against military targets, against the objectives of the Revolutionary Guards, which is in fact the terrorist arm of the Iranian state. And we are acting to remove a threat, to strike at the military, to strike at a country that has declared its intention to destroy the state of Israel. That is why, as it is said in Judaism, if someone comes to kill you, rise early and kill him first. That is what we are doing. And so we launched a preemptive war, since we had information that Iran was close to obtaining nuclear capability, and secondly, that it was about to launch a military operation against the state of Israel. Therefore, we have the moral right, the ethical right, and the duty of a state toward its citizens and toward the entire Jewish people to embark on such a campaign. And here we stand exposed, steadfast, ready, and confident in the righteousness of our path, knowing that we are not only saving the citizens of Israel and the state of the Jewish people, but in fact, we are saving the enlightened world. And I believe that we are also, of course, helping the United States, which has also joined the campaign, because Iran has declared that it is planning to develop missile capabilities aimed at Europe and the United States as well. After all, Iran refers to the United States as the great Satan, and it calls Israel the little Satan. When we carefully examine in detail the various media channels of the Revolutionary Guards, which are propaganda outlets, over many years we've repeatedly seen how they burn Israeli flags, burn American flags, and talk about, as part of their ongoing messaging, the takeover of the world by radical Islam.
Let's take a moment now to discuss this topic in a bit more detail. In the last broadcast we had with you, you spent quite some time talking about this concept of the quiet jihad, which, as you explained, is happening all over Europe, in America, and recently there have even been quite a few threats inside the United States. We're hearing that there have been threats that now Iran will start attacking inside the United States. It's hard to know what will happen, but you understand Iran's language, and you also have a deep understanding of the way the Iranians think and approach war. In your humble opinion, based on your experience and knowledge, what do you believe is their current mindset or perspective at this moment? Now, with the Iranian revolutionary government in power, where do you think we are headed from here, and what direction might things take? Is there even any chance at all, in your opinion, that they might actually will say, okay, we're going back to negotiations, we've taken our blow, let's start over from the beginning? Or do you think they are determined to go all the way without turning back? I'm genuinely interested to hear your thoughts on this, because everyone watching and following this situation wants to know what could happen next, and your perspective is important. And by the way, before you answer, I have to point out that a large Muslim audience is watching this program today, and it's interesting to hear, in your opinion, where we're headed here.
First of all, I want to say, following what you mentioned, that I am a lover of humanity. Anyone who walks the path of peace and love your neighbor as yourself towards every community. That's why I also have Muslim friends within the state of Israel. More than that, we even have connections that go beyond friendship, both in the north, in the Nazareth area, and in the Haifa area, for me and my family. And so, I don't look at Islam with hatred. Rather, I look at the leadership of the Islamic countries and how they behave and what they declare, in particular regarding the state of Israel, regarding Judaism, and regarding the Western world. And that's why I want to give you an example. Look, for instance, Hamas has declared that it will destroy the state of Israel. Hamas built up a force of a terror army and declared that it would attack the state of Israel. And I don't want to say we underestimated it, but we didn't give enough importance to what they were saying. We didn't want to listen. We wanted to think like a Western country, one that truly values and upholds equal opportunities and rights for all of its citizens, making no distinction based on religion, gender, or race, and ensuring that everyone is treated fairly and with respect. we looked at things from a democratic perspective regarding Hamas, and we said they will have something to lose, and there's no way they would go to war against us. That's why we also allowed them to receive basic goods. We didn't close the border, and we allowed 20,000 Palestinians to come and work in Israel. And we didn't listen to what Sinwar said, that he would attack and destroy the state of Israel, and he said it, the same thing. So what did we learn? In October the 7th, they went out, invaded, murdered, raped, and behaved like barbarians without a conscience, just like demonic monsters. The same thing occurred with Iran. How did the leader of Iran speak? In Tehran, there is a clock counting down time until the destruction of the state of Israel. In Tehran, they talk about the destruction of the great Satan, America, and the destruction of the little Satan, the state of Israel. And when you see that such a profoundly fundamentalist Shiite Muslim country is actively building the capability for mass destruction in the form of nuclear weapons, then what exactly were we thinking? That they won't try to realize their vision of destruction, that they will have change of heart. We, as Western countries, also have experience from World War II. A leader arose, a murderer, a dictator like Hitler. And in my view, Khamenei is the modern day Hitler. He declared, he spoke, he said, and he went to war. It's the same thing here. We have an extremist force that has declared, that has prepared, that has grown stronger, that has built up power. And here is where we absolutely, without a doubt, needed to cut off and stop this buildup of power, because we were at the very, very last possible minute, as they say in soccer, where we would no longer be able to block this further strengthening. And then we could have, and then essentially the power would be in their hands, deciding when to launch an attack. Wait, just a second. Let's talk about the street language here. Hamini, you mentioned him.
Has he actually gotten enough slaps here to really make him not want to mess with Israel anymore? Because it's very clear to me, it's honestly just truly absolutely amazing that the very same army where we really had such a significant and notable failure, from October 7th, look at this, look at what the army, what the IDF is doing. It's incredible. It's hard to believe. From October 7th, we're still the same Israel Defense Forces, and we really delivered blows there like I've never seen before, if the world even understands it at all. But my question is, in your opinion, has he gotten enough slaps from Israel? We completely and utterly humiliated them and thoroughly shamed them. We saw the absolutely astonishing and unforgettable images broadcast live for the entire world to witness of the Air Force bombing the prison where all the protesters against the regime were held. Listen, that's humiliation already. That's real humiliation. Tell me, in Iran's street language, have they already understood not to mess with us? Or in your opinion, is this moving toward even more difficult war?
Look, I think they got enough points. The beatings didn't start in Iran. The state of Israel is systematically and methodically dismantling the entire axis of evil. We've basically defeated and overcome Hamas. Today, Hamas has reverted to being a terrorist organization operating as a guerrilla group. We eliminated its 5 brigades, its battalions, its companies. We killed them all and destroyed its entire production infrastructure, including missiles and intelligence. All of Hamas's intelligence is now in the hands of the state of Israel, the entire mainframe. We have dealt Hezbollah a very severe blow. Iran's main arm, positioned close to the border with the state of Israel, has been stripped of any real military capability that could tip the balance in this arena. It still has some capability, but it has been severely damaged. Syria, which was Iran's bridge to Lebanon, has undergone a revolution. The Assad regime has fallen. All of Iran's infrastructure in Syria has collapsed. And now we come to Iran, where the state of Israel is demonstrating technological superiority, air force superiority, and operational superiority. They suddenly feel that they are exposed. We eliminated their chief of staff and their Air Force commander. And when they appointed a new chief of staff, we eliminated him as well, along with the head of the Revolutionary Guards and all the senior commanders, and nearly 20 nuclear scientists. We are striking them powerfully at all the nuclear sites and at all the ammunition and missile production facilities now. The question is whether all these contradictions, these are unprecedented blows. There has never been a war in the world that was conducted by an army, and all the armies in the world like the way the state of Israel is conducting it. And I will also explain why. The state of Israel actually operated using a pincer movement. On one hand, it is acting forcefully against military targets, the nuclear sites, the bases, the factories producing weapons, such as those manufacturing UAVs, drones, and missiles. On the other hand, it specifically targeted all the most senior and high-ranking figures who are responsible for managing and commanding the army, as well as the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, something that notably has never happened in any war before. Even in the Six-Day War, which took place 58 years ago, when the state of Israel decisively defeated the combined armies of Jordan, Syria, and Egypt, it still did not eliminate the leaders of the army and the intelligence chiefs of those countries. Here it's being done in two ways. And now the question is whether Khamenei will break free from his messianic mindset. I think he won't let go of it, and he will try to rebuild his capabilities. The question is whether he will make the mistake of trying to strike at the strategic assets of the United States as he is trying to strike at Israel. And the second question is whether he will continue with the culture of deception. Because after all, they lie as a worldview, as a method. They are constantly lying about the damage done to them. They lie about the capture of Mossad agents.
Wait, Adi, you say they're lying, but we see pictures. Believe me, it's even more than just frightening. It's truly alarming and deeply unsettling. We are seeing these things happening right now in our world today with Russia, as we watch them meeting and holding discussions with Vladimir Putin. We also hear them saying, perhaps we will help them. Maybe we will even provide them with nuclear weapons. We're hearing things that are genuinely shocking and disturbing. These are the kinds of things being talked about. And maybe it's just talk. Maybe it's only... I'm starting to hear more and more words and phrases like ending, end of the campaign, and also questions about whether Israel can really, truly take its foot off the gas here. In your opinion, have we already taken off the gloves? And does it mean that we simply won't stop until there's a real lasting resolution here? Yes, I even heard today that the IDF spokesperson said the threat has not yet been removed. Are we really getting close to removing this threat? Or, look, it doesn't seem to me like they've learned their lesson yet. And really the question is whether this could flare up into something much bigger. And I want your perspective on this matter.
So look, I want to make a distinction between the regime in Iran, the regime of the Ayatollahs, which is insane, tyrannical, and cruel, a regime of murderers. After all, Khamenei is a murderer. He has murdered his own people. He has murdered outside the borders of Iran. He has murdered Jews. And between the public in Iran, which is first of all heterogeneous, there are Persians, Pashtuns, Kurds, and Azeris. It's very diverse. The Iranian public is very diverse. And there is a very intelligent population, including students and educated people. We all remember that Iran is actually a descendant of the Persian Empire, and the state of Israel and the Jewish people have great respect for it. And that is precisely why I make this important distinction truly between the Iranian public and the regime, because the regime is a tyrannical one that holds the public in check by force. The question here is twofold. Will this public take power into its own hands and return Iran to sanity and to an enlightened, progressive, Western-style government that will open up the country economically? Because truly in such a situation, it would be possible to create a new, prosperous Middle East, or that they won't do it, and then Khamenei or the rule of the Ayatollahs will continue to control Iran. And here we must reach a decision on a very, very important issue, the nuclear issue. We must eliminate the nuclear threat in a decisive and clear manner, together with the United States, of course. This is in the interest of all Western countries. How did the German chancellor put it? Israel is doing the dirty work for all the Western countries. The German leader said this a few days ago. That's why I think we need just a bit more patience. Is the Iranian people making their voice heard? And if not, I believe that by using force, we will be able to paralyze the nuclear project. And to some sort of agreement, because in the end, every war, as history repeatedly demonstrates, leads to some kind of political arrangement within which the powers, including other Western countries, it could be Britain or France or Germany, I don't know who exactly, with the United States leading, will reach a strict and forceful monitoring agreement, requiring Iran to completely remove the entire issue of developing nuclear weapons and the surface-to-surface missiles, which threaten not only the state of Israel, but could also threaten other Western countries, including Europe and the United States. And that's it. There are two possibilities. Will the Iranian people make their voice heard? And if not, when will we reach a political settlement? We need patience here, certainly days, if not just a few weeks.
According to your assessment and based on what you have just said, I actually wanted to ask you exactly about this particular point. Even though that wasn't the original goal or intention of starting this war, I personally have a strong feeling that in reality, we do want to bring down this regime, even if it means a potential and possibly dangerous confrontation with Khamenei himself. Of course, we're not saying this explicitly. In your opinion, has the regime's overthrow or perhaps its removal from power now become a primary goal? Is that truly an objective of this war at this stage, or not yet, in your view, as you see it, as things currently stand?
Look, the state of Israel must not declare this as a goal, and it hasn't declared it. If you're asking me whether we wouldn't be pleased or wouldn't want to see a revolution in Iran, of course we would. I can tell you and the viewers that we have a good friend who, as a child in the early 1970s, her father was a representative of the Ministry of Agriculture in Tehran, and she attended elementary school in Iran. There was an amazing relationship between the Jews and their Iranian neighbors, and there was a very close strategic level relationship between the two countries. And I have another friend who served at the embassy in Tehran right up until the revolution, just before it, and he also spoke about an excellent relationship. That's why I have a lot of faith in the Iranian people. Look, there are two countries in the Middle East that are Muslim but not Arab that have no conflict with us. And in the past, we had very, very good relations with them, Turkey and Iran. With Turkey, I believe that in the future, it will be possible to warm up relations with the citizens because the relationship is not what it used to be, mainly because of the head of state who is associated with the Muslim Brotherhood. And in Iran, because of what happened there, these are countries that are not Arab and even have their own national pride. They do not share a border with the state of Israel, and we have no territorial conflict with these countries at all. Iran is a Shiite country. It has no connection to Hamas, no connection to Sunni Islam. Anyone who understands Islam knows this. Even more than that, the Ayatollah regime, together with Hezbollah, viewed Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and the Muslim Brotherhood among the Palestinians here as, in their estimation, inferior elements, without exception. They look down on them internally and see them as pawns in a chess game, ready to sacrifice them without any hesitation from their perspective. They have no problem with what is happening in Gaza. They have no problem with the suffering that Hamas has brought upon the citizens of the Gaza Strip. And that's why I say that the current situation is one where all options are on the table. And I sincerely hope that we will receive support from all of the sane and democratic Western countries, those who understand that the rule of the Ayatollahs, which murders, by the way, anyone from the LGBTQ community, they kill them. We need to understand that. There is no tolerance for LGBTQ people. For example, they oppress women, they suppress freedom. Let's call it our freedom, democratic freedom. And that's why I think that there is a truly historic opportunity here to fundamentally change the face of Iran. And ultimately, it is the public and the citizens of Iran themselves who need to make this happen. We must continue with our important mission toward achieving two main objectives: removal of nuclear and missile threats on Israel. The Iranian people must do their part. It's very funny and indeed quite ridiculous that here in the United States, especially in this country, since the start of the war, the progressive far left public, yes, that same progressive far left public,
actually opposes the war, and they simply do not really understand what it truly means to be a woman living in Iran today, nor do they realize the kind of suffering and hardship that people have to endure there. And honestly, it's very funny to hear that. Tell me, you're talking about sane countries. Let's switch gears for a moment and have a discussion about the countries that are surrounding Iran, specifically those neighboring nations. Saudi Arabia, Qatar. How do you see the Middle East and these countries progressing here and the relationship with them? The last time we spoke, you mentioned that the Qataris aren't exactly our close friends either, but we see that they're keeping quiet here. They're not getting involved. And by the way, it's also very interesting that you mentioned Hezbollah and you mentioned the Houthis. And where are they anyway? They're quiet. Everyone is very quiet right now. It's very interesting. All the alliances of the axis of evil are suddenly silent. It's truly stunning. Look, first of all, they're quiet right now because they're still carefully trying to fully understand exactly what happened here in the Middle East. The change is like a storm. What's happening here is truly more like a hurricane.
Suddenly, the state of Israel, which was seen as battered, as wounded after October 7th, is systematically and methodically dismantling the entire axis of evil that Iran built. I said it before: Hezbollah, Syria, Hamas, and now Iran itself. Suddenly, everyone understands what the state of Israel really is. A country built on human intelligence, a startup nation. We have no natural resources, we have no oil. What we have here is the Jewish mind. We have the intelligence to build strength, to build power, to build mutual responsibility, to build a country that cherishes life. You know, anyone walking around today in the city centers, like I do, for example, can see how many people want to live well, want to succeed at work, want to see their families grow and be raised with love for others, in a culture of abundance, in a culture of loving others. On the other hand, you look at our enemies, those people, you know, talk about martyrs, glorify death, talk about hatred, murder, and constantly about destroying the Zionist entity, while, you know, in the end, if you look at it statistically, how many people with those values, you know, lacking, let's call it creative thinking, how many Nobel Prizes have all those countries won? Yemen, for example, the Houthis, just look at how they live. A country where there's nothing to eat, where people draw water and chop wood. People who, instead of thinking about the economy, about culture, and developing their country, are busy firing missiles at the state of Israel. So we destroyed their airfields, hit their command centers, and just recently eliminated several of their senior officials. And we have no choice. We do this as part of our self-defense. And suddenly you see how our country goes on the offensive against a nation dozens of times larger than ours. 85 million residents versus 10 million residents. A country whose size is just a fraction compared to Iran. How, in terms of technology, operations, intelligence, it maintains control. You know, today, if a civilian plane in Iran wants to take off, it has to request permission from the Israeli Defense Force. I'm not saying this out of disrespect, arrogance, or conceit. I'm saying it because these are the facts. We are in a situation where we have brought our superiority to fruition in order to remove the threats against us. Now, do you know what needs to be done for the entire Middle East to prosper, develop, and advance? Only one thing needs to be done. Stop making declarations about wanting to destroy the state of Israel. Stop developing nuclear weapons to destroy the state of Israel. Stop developing missiles to destroy the state of Israel. And there you have a new Middle East. There's no problem at all. It's very, very simple.
Very, very simple. But Adi,
we could also help them develop. We could lend them a hand, extend a hand to them, and in fact help them to move forward. But you know, and one more thing, look, there's one country that is probably the key to the next change, to have prosperity, to aid in the development and prosperity. And the key is Saudi Arabia. And I think Trump is making some very smart moves here. Also by entering the fight, he dealt with the Iranian nuclear issue, and he's leaving the door open to reach some kind of arrangement because he's looking as a businessman at how we can later combine the wealth of resources in the Gulf states, like the Abraham Accords with Dubai and the moderate Gulf states together with Saudi Arabia and this little startup nation called Israel. How do we create this combination to change the Middle East for the better? And I hope we manage to resolve this issue with Iran, but completely, and that we won't give up, won't compromise, and won't back down. We will remove these threats, hoping that the Iranian people will also do their part, and we will set out on a new path toward a new Middle East.
With God help and on an optimistic note.
That's how I was raised, thank you. The State of Israel was founded with a great deal of optimism, with a sense of brotherhood, let's call it civic brotherhood, with mutual solidarity. We were few against many. There were 600,000 people in the State of Israel back then. Today we are 10 million. My father and mother fought here for the land, and many were wounded. My father was wounded twice in the battles for Jerusalem. We were actually fighting in 7 fronts. In 1948 against 7 armies. It's simply unbelievable. And we established a magnificent state. And every time we are attacked, we prove that the people of Israel live on. The people of Israel live on. And anyone who sees this around the world, I think, on the one hand, to salute and respect. And on the other hand, to see how to do even better with this nation, even in the Middle East, how to connect, how to join hands between peoples, and truly, genuinely, and in a meaningful way, completely eliminate all the extremists.
And with that, Adi, on this optimistic note, you mentioned that we've already eliminated, we finished off Hamas. Here we're eliminating the army and the murderous regime in Iran. But one last question for you. What about the hostages? What's happening with that situation? And in your opinion, is there a connection between ending the campaign with Iran and the hostages?
Look, I think the state of Israel needs to do more. I believe there will now be a connection. I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu today, after everything that's happening with Iran, will have the power to end the war in Gaza with all the hostages back home. I believe he will do it. I believe he will take that step, even if it means we have to pay a price. But whatever price the state of Israel pays, including ending the war and withdrawing from the Gaza Strip, it will still reserve for itself the right to self-defense. The state of Israel, certainly in the coming generations, will no longer believe in all sorts of optimistic and democratic notions. But the moment it identifies a terrorist enemy or a state or a terrorist organization that wants to harm it, that is growing stronger, building up power, organizing, intending, and planning, the state of Israel will launch an all-out war against it, including in the Gaza Strip. So I think that the lesson we learned from October 7th is one we will need to continue studying and internalizing for generations to come. And right now, As citizens of the State of Israel, we have the duty to demand from our government to end the war in the Gaza Strip and bring the hostages home, and to demand from them the obligation of self-defense and always to take the initiative. And to go on the offensive when there are those who seek to harm the citizens of the State of Israel. We cannot tolerate, or let's say come to terms with, a hostile entity, whether it's a country or a terrorist organization that organizes itself on our border, threatens us, and we just sit idly by. That will no longer happen. We have learned our lessons, and now we are showing the world what determination is, what perseverance is, what self-sacrifice is, and what mutual responsibility means for a people who cherish life and ultimately want to reach days of peace, prosperity, and flourishing. That is what we want in the State of Israel, a Jewish and democratic rule.
As someone who has served and who continues to serve the State of Israel in a variety of important roles and responsibilities within the broader security establishment, could you give us some deeper insight, for example, into the mindset, thought process of our pilots? What are the soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces and the Mossad, Shin Bet, Aman, and all the agencies involved going through? What goes through their minds? And are we really understanding that his is something much more than just fighting the enemy? We call it a war of faith. It's really something that's ingrained within us to get into this. Give us some insight, even within, what do you think when you see these images of Tehran and Iran, what goes through their minds?
So look, first of all, full disclosure, I was in Golani Reconnaissance Unit, and I fought and I was rescued from a combat zone by pilots, but I'm a helicopter pilot. But I'll tell you, from conversations with pilots, I can say, and from what they say, that they feel a sense of mission historically, an extraordinary sense of mission, that they are saving the citizens of Israel, or in fact, protecting and defending the citizens of the State of Israel, and essentially striking at the enemy itself, who wanted to come and kill Jews, harm the State of Israel, and destroy it. And that's why they feel that all the people of Israel, both within the country itself and also around the world, are truly standing behind them. And they have an incredible sense, let's call it, of strength, of power, that they are truly doing the right thing against the enemy who, let's call it, is the most justified war possible. You know, it's an incredible feeling of satisfaction, of inner strength that they get from this, and they are very determined to complete the mission.
Adi, by the way, that's true. Just days before this war broke out, we saw the Knesset, which is Israel's parliament, almost split apart over the draft law. There were heated debates and strong disagreements among lawmakers, showing just how divided and contentious the issue had become even before the conflict started. Well, now, after everything we've been through together, maybe, just maybe, something good will eventually come out of it, and we'll simply, as they say in English, allow it to gently go to sleep, and finally put this issue to rest within ourselves, once and for all. So what do you think about that, if I may ask?
Look, I want to tell you something. The State of Israel unites in times of crisis and distress. You saw it after October 7th as well, how everyone pitched in, got involved, as we say, got under the stretcher and went out to fight. You saw your civilian organizations and nonprofits, how everyone helped and supported each other, opened their homes, opened their wallets, helped one another. You also helped Ahavat Ami. You know that we cooperate both for the benefit of at-risk youth and for the sake of IDF soldiers. And truly, as I see it, I genuinely and wholeheartedly believe that at the end of these wars, I am genuinely optimistic and sincerely believe that we will know how to learn the important lessons and be even more tolerant toward one another and love your neighbor as yourself. You know, in the end, it's perfectly okay to think differently. It's absolutely okay to have different and diverse opinions. But in the end, there is a government, there is authority, there is law, and we are subject to the law and must continue to exist as a Jewish and democratic state, tolerant, each person toward his fellow according to love your neighbor as yourself, even if he doesn't think like you.
Amen. Last question, one last word. We have a large Muslim audience watching the program today. To those who love us and for those who love less, a final message. What would you like to say to them? And this week, we had a truly interesting and rather unexpected event. We had a live broadcast, and in the middle of the broadcast, thousands, not just hundreds, but literally thousands, joined the broadcast specifically to attack, curse, and threaten us, the state of Israel. But in the midst of all this chaos and hostility, a Muslim guy joined the broadcast and said, I want to convert, I want to become Jewish. What message would you like to send to our cousins today, if any?
I want to say simply and plainly, the people of Israel, our nation, for thousands of years has known how to deal with many challenges. And in modern times, it also managed to survive the Holocaust and establish a Jewish and democratic state, the state of Israel. And I say even to our enemies, consider that the state of Israel is indeed a true blessing for global prosperity. It is a small country and it does not interfere with any other country. I see the Palestinian incitement as a factor that is essentially trying, let's say, to cause harm. This was, in fact, the method of the Arab states in the past. And I think the time has come to change the approach, to understand that the state of Israel can also benefit its neighbors, and see how we can reach an era of true peace and cooperation. Because in the end, the world has undergone an information revolution in recent decades, and the world has become a small global village. And the era of wars, truly, it's time for it to disappear from the world. We will always need to protect and defend ourselves. The state of Israel has no vision or desire in any way to destroy other countries. It has no such vision. It also does not wish to harm its neighbors. And its vision is to live in peace and develop as a nation. And therefore, I also say to our Muslim neighbors or to the Islamic countries, consider that the state of Israel is a source of strength, power, and prosperity. And I truly hope that they will be able to learn the lessons from the events we've experienced in the past 2 years and understand that death, destruction, war, fear, and anxiety are not the way. We will not be intimidated by such statements either when someone comes and threatens me online or shouts at me. I'm not fazed by him at all. I have already seen the enemy with my own eyes enough times. This does not impress me. We are a strong nation that will always know how to defend and protect itself. And I would like to emphasize that the change currently happening in Iran will truly be a strategic shift that will genuinely bring about change throughout the entire region.
With God's help, Adi, we sincerely thank you. On this optimistic and hopeful note, we send our heartfelt blessings to all the people of Zion, that the Holy One, blessed be He, will graciously grant success, grace, and favor to all the people of Zion, and also to the Israel Defense Forces, who continue to faithfully do their important and vital work. Our eyes are set on peace. Am Yisrael truly wants peace, and with God's help, now and always. This war will lead us to peace, even with our enemies. That is the prayer of all of us.
Even with our enemies.
He who makes peace in his heights, may he make peace upon us and upon all Israel. Thank you so much, dear Adi. And of course, as always, we truly appreciate your likes, your views, and your thoughtful, insightful questions. And with God's help, we will, as always, continue to report to you on what is happening. Please keep looking at things in a positive and optimistic way, and keep praying with the words, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Goodbye, friends.